We're going to show you the proper way for disassembling the magazine, cleaning it, and putting it back together. We have put a good pair of safety glasses on for the process of disassembling this magazine. You have the base plate, and you have a lock for the locking plate that sits underneath the base plate. Take your 5-in-1 tool, press the lock down, and slide the base plate forward. Now, make sure that you follow this base plate with your thumb, because that locking plate is underneath that base plate and it will fly up if you don't have pressure right here. So here's the locking plate that we take off. We're going to roll this magazine over like this. There is a little plunger right here called the follower plunger that must be depressed, and push the follower forward till that plunger passes this point here and is retained by the wall of the magazine. So now we can pull this out, and you can see that there's no pressure on that plunger, so when we put this back together we have to make sure that it sticks out, and we'll show you how to do that. Now that we have the follower, that's this part, and the spring out, if we take the spring and turn it this way, we can pull the end of the spring out from the follower. Now, when we put it back together, we'll show you how that goes. Now that we have the spring out, we're going to wipe everything down, and note that we have removed lubricants from the sight to keep the oil from the parts of the magazine. And again, I reiterate, do not pull on this spring or change the configuration in any way. It must attain a certain spring power. So we're going to set that aside, pick up the follower, and start wiping off any debris that's on the follower. Okay, the follower is clean. The locking plate is next. Not much debris on this magazine, but you can get the general process from this presentation. Set that aside, take the base plate, wipe it down. We've got that cleaned real well. We're going to set that aside and take the magazine component and start wiping it down. The magazine does need to be cleaned periodically. It will pick up debris from the powder residue that's exhausted when it is fired. So we come up here to the lips, make sure there's no debris underneath the lips. We'll take this push rod and push it in these little areas that we can't get to with our fingers. Pull it out. Come to the bottom and load this up in the magazine again and push it up and down a couple times, just to make sure all debris is coming out of the magazine. Okay, the inside of the magazine is clean, and now we're going to reassemble this magazine in a safe manner. For reassembly of the magazine, first thing that we have to do is to take the follower, and as we talked about this follower plunger when we disassembled, you can see that this plunger is locked underneath this part of the follower. So when we compress this plunger downward, it pops up. That is the position that you need the plunger in for installation. So we've got the follower fixed. We're going to take the spring, and note that this one end has a long portion that sticks out, and it has to sit in the correct location for it to work properly. On the on the follower, there is a groove. This spring must be placed in that groove and down onto the spring guide, getting behind the plunger that's down inside. It must be behind the plunger. So that is installed correctly. We're going to slide this system into place. We're going to push it a little bit here with a rod. Listen for the click. There was a click of the follower plunger into place. Now it won't come out unless that's depressed again. So that is the correct positioning. Now we're going to take our lock for the spring and place it in place and hold it firmly while you slide the base plate over top and onto the rails of the base. This one's being a little difficult. Not pressing down hard enough. Okay, that's the way the base plate goes on and over the lock plate. Slide it back, and you heard the click. That's the lock plunger locking the magazine together. The magazine has been completely reassembled and ready for use.